Hi, Kieran Daly. Welcome to 10 by 6.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Kieran is the co-founder of the Radical Art Review, and he's here today just to talk to us about exactly what it is, where we can find it, and maybe some aspect that he's particularly proud of. So over to you, Kieran.
Sure. So the Radical Art Review, this is our latest issue. You might see it around the UK in certain places. I'll talk about the issue a bit in a minute, but I guess generally speaking, we're a print and online platform for like art, culture, and activism. So when the magazine started, we felt that there was kind of a gap in terms of particularly on the left, but also in political conversation of talking about art and culture in a sort of, meaningful way that was not only like accessible, but was creating the potential for social change. So we've been doing this for 3 or 4 years. We started in 2017 in Devon, and we were just a blog for many years. And starting last December, we printed our first print edition, which I've got in a box somewhere over here, Solitude. And yeah, that was kind of a big effort. And we've just expanded that this year to do our second print edition, which is, this Precipice, sorry. So Precipice, kind of a good example of what we do. We're taking a look at, I guess, the intersections between political issues. So we've got in here about censorship from the Conservative government, for example, of artists in Extinction Rebellion. We've got also a lot of stuff profiling outsider artists, or what we typically we call outsider artists. So in our last issue, Solitude, we had a feature with artists in prison and on death row. This time we have a homeless charity here with featured in here. We've got a few other bits where disability arts. And I guess on the one hand, we're trying to platform people who have been traditionally excluded from what people call the art world. And on the other hand, talk about some of the political issues around the art world. So in this issue, we're talking about, there's a big feature about what that's called WTF, WWF, which is all about how the WWF is involved in what the author of this piece describes as colonial conservation. We have another piece in there about I think Shell's sponsorship of the Science Museum on an exhibit about climate change, which is just bonkers. And then do a lot of work. We have on the website, we run podcasts, we host podcasts that aren't necessarily ours, we just syndicate them. And we have a community section here as well, which you can see this here has a listings of like associated organizations, events, things to listen to, who to support. And we're just trying to get out there at the minute, and that's basically it. I can talk a little bit more about the organization and stuff if you want as well, but that's kind of a broad brush sort of overview.
No, that's terrific. And so you're on your 7th, is that right? Your 7th edition.
So this will be our 8th issue, our second to be printed. So previously we used to do online issues. We'd run stuff on the website. I guess the whole thing started off just as a blog. It was founded by my friend Niall Walker. I used to live with him in Devon in Exeter, and he'd been writing some weird stuff about Love Island that he just felt there wasn't really a home for. And he was working with a group called Exeter Food Fight, who distribute free food in the city centre. And he'd been chatting to some of the rough sleepers in the street as well, who was saying, we sell the big issue, we have to buy it. And originally our idea was to do that. We were going to make a free paper to give out to rough sleepers who were going to sell it, and they could have kept all the revenue and we wouldn't take a cut. And obviously in that time, Dope magazine from the great people at Dog Section Press has come to existence. And that's pretty much what they do, and they're doing a fantastic job of it. So when we did come around to making the print edition, we pivoted slightly away from that initial idea because, I've had to kind of try and reach a bigger audience in a different way. So this issue is out for free. We've printed 5,000 copies this time, and we've partnered with a few different people. So Bywire, for example, Independent Media Association, as well as People's Republic of Stokes Croft. They run a China shop and like a commune kind of thing in Bristol. And Means TV, which is like an anti-capitalist Netflix, well, not exclusively, but it's artist owned. So instead of all the licensing being owned by a big company. It's all owned by the creators, and they helped us fund it. So we've got posters in here. They're not advertisements; they're posters. You can rip them out and stick them on your wall, basically.
Fantastic. No, unbelievable. And in essence, it's open to local, domestic, national, international artists. Is that
Yes.
right? Yes.
Exactly.
Brilliant.
And yeah, I guess trying to, I've kind of general worldview on things would just be, you know, there's a lot of like issues in current affairs and politics that are really important, but people don't necessarily, you know, there's not an easy way to access them or understand them just by reading the news all the time, right? And some people don't want to read the news all the time. And the basic belief of the website and the magazine is just art and culture offers you a way into understanding like the issues that are going to affect your life. And we've just tried to make it as accessible as possible in that way, because I think there's also a problem on the art world of being quite elitist and being perceived as this thing that, you know, some people go, I can possibly go to an exhibit. That's not for me. That's just something, you know, for people who've been to a good school or whatever, you know. And we've tried to, I guess, tackle those two issues a little bit. And yeah, so you can be anyone from anywhere. I mean, we want to feature good stuff. It's not just
cool.
any old thing, but try and make it as open as possible.
Brilliant. And that leads us in nicely to the last point of which publication, which genre, element, particular, you know, concept have you published that you're thinking back you're particularly proud of?
I mean, I guess there's my personal answer, and then probably as just a project, you know, as a project, I think doing this issue was amazing because this is something that started off with me and Niall drinking pints on a Wednesday and having silly ideas. And now there's a team of 8 of us who are all volunteers, and we've been able to pay our writers, and we've produced like a pretty good looking, you know, eye-catching magazine. None of the editors are paid. We don't make any money off this, and we've just managed to turn around a pretty professional looking project with really good content, and to get to that stage after like 3-4 years of just plugging away at it is very nice. And I've taken a bit of a back seat in terms of the editorial. I used to write, you know, before my own work life got crazy, I used to write a lot for it. So for me, the thing I was the most proud of was a few years ago I did a feature on Hong Kong. And it was when the protests were happening in Hong Kong, and the Chinese authorities were basically shutting down internet chats. They were monitoring communications. There was a lot of like censorship involved in the press. And what people were doing there, the activists and the protesters were coordinating protests by using street art. So they created these things called the Lennon Walls, and they were all over Hong Kong. And it would be like instructions of where to meet for the next assembly, mutual aid notices, hand-drawn like graffiti and stuff. And it became this, they were using art to like organize their protest basically. And I managed to interview some artists there and some people involved there. And it took months of research. It was like chatting on encrypted messenger in the dead of night kind of thing, because of the time difference. And then, we managed to put it out in the end. So yeah, I'd say that for me, that was my piece that I wrote that I was very happy with.
Fabulous. I mean, it all sounds so amazing, Kieran, and thank you for so much for coming on 10 by 6. And hopefully, as I say, every single one of us, a member of the IMA, can all work together to make us, each and every one of us, successful. That's amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.